Good afternoon. My name is Gail Agrawal. I am the fortunate person who is the dean of this law school, and I am delighted to welcome you to the 2014 graduation ceremony. Today, I'm joined on the platform by President Sally Mason, who has the most important role of the day. She is going to confer the degrees. By Regent Robert N. Downer from the Iowa Law Class of 1963. By the Honorable Rita B. Garman, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Illinois from the class of 1968. And by a number of members of the extraordinary faculty of the Iowa College of Law. Now, today is a day to celebrate the accomplishments of our students, but I want to make one special faculty acknowledgement today to Dean Emeritus Joseph F. Rosenfield, Professor of Law, and William Hines, who will officially retire on June 30th after serving a record-breaking 28 years as our dean and 52 years on our faculty. No single person has had a greater influence on this law school. And so for all that we are as a college, we will forever be deeply grateful to Bill. So thank you. I also want to dedicate this commencement exercise to the memory of our beloved colleague, Randall B. P. Pazanson, this is hard for me, the David Vernon Professor of Law, first in the Iowa Law School class of 1971, who 1 week before his death after a long illness on January 25th of this year, ordered his academic regalia for this ceremony. So now, on behalf of the College of Law, I extend a special welcome and sincere congratulations to the spouses and partners, parents and grandparents, children, and all the family and friends of today's graduates. I thank you for sharing their tears and cheering them up, and for cheering with them when things went well through all of their law school years. So I know that without your unwavering support and encouragement, these newly minted lawyers would not be here today. I invite the graduates to join me in giving you a hand. I turn now to the main order of the day, when I have the privilege of exercising one of the truly pleasurable prerogatives of the dean, and that is addressing the members of the class in the last few minutes they will spend as Iowa Law students. The late Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said, "The law is the calling of thinkers," and each of you has been called to the law. With some considerable effort, by you and your teachers, you have been transformed. You arrived fuzzy-headed first-year students, inclined to begin your responses with, "Well, I feel," that is, when you would respond at all. You leave us deeply analytical lawyers who permit no half-baked assertion, no lapse in logic, by anyone, anywhere, ever, to go unidentified or unchallenged. As your dean, I congratulate you and your long-suffering teachers on this remarkable achievement. And to those in the audience who shared these students' law school journey, my faculty colleagues and I formally and publicly apologize for any collateral damage you may have suffered as the law student in your midst was learning to think and maybe argue like a lawyer. You applied to law school after the beginning of the Great Recession and the changes that it brought to our shared profession. It took self-confidence and determination and even courage to decide to come to law school then. The study of law had ceased to be the holding pattern for those who could not make up their minds about what their next step in life should be. And this is a good thing. You are here now because you chose to pursue the intellectual rigor of mind that characterizes a first-rate legal education. Every class has a defining trait, and to my mind, yours is aspiration. Great achievements require great aspirations, as well as a lot of effort. And at this early stage in your professional lives, you have given us great achievements. In your work with the legal clinic, 9 members of this class helped 30 clients and their families secure asylum, work authorization, green cards, and United States citizenship. It is not an exaggeration to say that your work changed their lives. Molly McPartlin and Will Gouch worked tirelessly defending teenage clients in our new public defender clinic. Professor Hughes told me that I would be really lucky to get you away from the work of the clinic to put on your academic regalia to come here today, so I'm glad for that good luck. 2 members of this class, Agnes Bugay and Jason Emanuel, traveled to The Hague to work on criminal cases at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, helping to seek justice on the world stage. The 177 members of this class provided 12,130 hours of pro bono legal and community service during your 3 years here. That's 1,100 hours more than the class of 2013, which I thought was quite distinguished, and they were a larger class. So congratulations and thank you on behalf of all the people you served. Your aspirations are the aspirations of members of a learned profession practiced in the public interest. You have given us Stacey Townsend and Wade Hauser's intellect, Hillary Moise's unwavering commitment to social justice, Tyler Coe's determined pursuit of human dignity for all, and Dr. Josh Galgano's skill at oral advocacy, not to mention absolute mastery of patent law, which with his 2L teammate brought us national honors this year. We also owe a debt of gratitude to EIC Emily Colby and the entire board and staff of the Iowa Law Review, which gave us pride of place, ranked 18th in the nation this year. As I said, high aspirations and hard work. Now, it is also true that not all worthy achievements are on such a grand scale as these, but they're still worthy. Because of Dan Garen's persistence, we have a brand new shiny ice machine in the student lounge. Which I've been told is especially useful when Professor Bohannon is locked out of the faculty lounge, where, I note, we manage with 1960s-era ice cube trays. It's never been an issue. ISBA co-presidents Jordan Moody and Andy Gordon secured environmentally friendly hand dryers, improving our building's green score, but drawing student complaints about dry hands and wet wrists. And then there is our new and already overused boot scraper for those snowy days of a seemingly unending winter. Not that the harshest winter in recorded history deterred native Floridian Mike Bedinger, for whom Iowa wasn't cold enough, who ventures to Alaska for his judicial clerkship. Every member of this class leaves footprints in this place, and we are the better for it. After all we have shared, over the last 3 years, I wish I could stand here and say that you have even some small reluctance to leave us. But I worry just a little that such an obvious lie in front of so many highly credible witnesses would prompt a character and fitness inquiry of the dean by the Board of Bar Examiners, which wouldn't do. So therefore, we will let the record reflect that you were apparently much more enthusiastic about leaving than I am about seeing you go. With your departure, we will lose University Distinguished Student Leader and JCL Editor-in-Chief Mark Van Hukelum. And before long, Ty Tomasi and her dog Lava, the best mascot any law school could ever have. Sarah Gadiri will take her distinctive style of all that jazz to Chicago and Big Law. So today is, for me, the day the music leaves. And I fear, Sarah's looking at me, I fear my days will never be as bright after our irrepressibly cheerful Ray Bimmerly heads to Chicago and Kay Osvig heads to Fairfield, Iowa. So let me just say, all of you visit often. Among you are immigrants and first-generation Americans, as well as second and third-generation Hawkeyes. To all the Iowa lawyer parents and grandparents and aunts and uncle who entrusted your children to us so that they might follow in your footsteps in the law, you have paid us a great compliment, and I thank you. Others of you are like me, the first in your family to graduate from college and then go to law school. I know that your time here will be life-changing. A few of you managed to acquire new family members during your law school years. So best wishes to law school classmates, Allison and Tyler Blake, who found time to plan a wedding and get married while they were in law school. You are former firefighters and veterans of military service. One of you earned a Bronze Star for service in Iraq. You came to us having already served in the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, and Teach for America, and many of you will leave us to serve in different capacities with the JAG Corps as legal aid lawyers, prosecutors, and public defenders. A few of you here today are already licensed to practice law. So if anyone is looking for exceptional representation by a new lawyer in Iowa, Missouri, or New Jersey, I have names. Talk to me later. Perhaps most impressive of all, for 3 years, not one of you did a single negative thing that landed the Iowa College of Law on the pages of Above the Law. And for that high accomplishment, your faculty and I are truly grateful. Yet with all this distinction in the class of 2014, en masse, you ignored the wise counsel that I shared with you at orientation of the learned Justice Holmes to law students to shun delights and live laborious days. Now, I suppose I have to concede that there were some laborious days. The first memo, A1, 6 semesters of exams, and maybe a few other things. But there was also hockey with Yaki, high tea with Elias, Mr. Iowa Law, Law Palooza, the Equal Justice Auctions, law proms, tailgates, football games, and a party to mark 100 days before the bar exam. So let me just remind you, those days, they're counting down. It would be good not to have a party to celebrate each day as it counts down. Suffice it to say, you also excelled in finding distractions to take you away from your legal studies. After the bar exam, did I tell you that we were expecting a 100% pass rate from this class? So just keep that in mind. But after the bar, not before, you will have more time to pursue the hobbies that once captivated you. Riding a unicycle, hula dancing, dog training, singing karaoke, and whistling like a cricket. In short, you are truly an extraordinary group. I was really honored to welcome you as 1Ls, and I feel very privileged, along with your faculty, at having spent these last 3 years with you. So congratulations. But now it's time for me to relinquish the podium, for now, to one of your own. So I invite Daniel Rita Garman, who was elected speaker for the class of 2014, to the podium.
Well, thank you, Dean Agrawal. Good afternoon, loved ones, fellow graduates, and your less successful siblings. Three years ago, on a sweaty August day in Iowa, we walked through the doors of the Boyd Law Building and began an intensive, one-week study of the law of loss of support and consortium. We were scared. As Professor Bauer remarked, it was the only class in all of law school in which every student actually, read the material. Dean Agrawal beautifully welcomed us at an orientation session, giving us sage advice, telling us not to be afraid to speak up in class and share our opinions because that is what law school is all about. It became immediately clear that some students may have taken this advice a little too literally, and we know who we are. 1L core classes started the next week. In contracts, my favorite class, we learned the replacement value of a hairy hand. In torts, we learned to stay away from railroad tracks, old warehouses, and of course, Ford Pintos. In civil procedure, we learned that an inexperienced lawyer can slow down or delay a court proceeding by days or even weeks, but that an experienced attorney can cause delays much, much longer. And in professional responsibility, we learned, well, I think the takeaway from that class was unique to the person. Multiply that by 6 semesters, throw in everybody's favorite LAWR class, and here we are. We are a profound debt of gratitude to our faculty. Thank you for all you have done for us and all you will do for future classes. Thank you. So here's to the College of Law, to our wonderful professors, our devoted office staff, and the holy trinity that is Deb, Renee, and Michelle. And of course, to the law librarians who know where everything is. To our parents who got us into this mess. Our grandparents who love us very much, although we don't call nearly enough. I'm very sorry, but we love you. And to our siblings who truly no longer find us funny. To the gunners, to the undergrads in our law library, and to the strange people in class who agree with Justice Scalia opinions. To the reality that while on law school exams there are many right answers, that there are also definitely some wrong answers. And here's to the two biggest lies told in all of law school: that we are using our laptops in class only to take notes, and that Professor Tomkovitz will be making brief remarks. In seriousness, Professor Tomkovitz is the kind of person that makes a law school famous. Thank you for your genuine devotion to this class and so many others. After 3 years at Iowa Law, we've become very different people. Think for just a moment of a computer hacker. Most people think very smart person, very knowledgeable, but usually up to no good. But what a computer hacker really does is distinguish between life's perceived rules and life's actual rules. The perceived rules are the rules that we think we have to follow, but the actual rules are the only rules that really govern us. So once a hacker can discover the actual rules, he can easily break the perceived rules. You think to access your files, you need a password. The hacker knows he can just press the escape key. The sign says, "No parking, violators will be towed," but the hacker knows the guy whose job it is to call for the tow truck, he's gone home for the night. This is what hackers do. Lawyers, then, are also hackers. Very smart people, very knowledgeable, well-trained, not always trusted by society, good at reading code, who distinguish between the perceived law and the actual law. Sometimes the truth will set your client free. Other times, the statute of limitations. This is a lawyer's job. And there is nothing more important to a free society than this job. Doing everything ethical in your power to help your client win is getting justice. Demanding rigid adherence to the rules of civil procedure is not slimy or dishonorable because, as Justice Frankfurter said, the history of American freedom is in no small measure the history of procedure. But I think what we've learned over these last 3 years is that Iowa lawyers are more than hackers searching the boundaries of the law. Iowa lawyers change the actual rules. This was the first law school west of the Mississippi. Among the first to graduate an African American, a graduate who, by the way, successfully desegregated schools in Iowa a full 80 years before the rest of the nation and gave meaning to Justice Holmes's adage that the life of the law has not been logic, it has been experience. The first law school to host a legal symposium, and the first public law school to graduate a female attorney. If it is true that all social change if it is really true that all social change comes from a committee of concerned citizens, then friends, you're looking at it. Chief Justice Rita Garman will never be able to quantify the number of female attorneys who took her courage as motivation and followed her through the doors of the Boyd Law Building and into the bar. And she's just one of the many judges, elected officials, practicing attorneys, and business leaders who have forever shaped our world using the skills and rhetorical potency they developed, roaming these halls, sparring in unwinnable legal debates with intellectual giants like Burton, Bauer, Boyd, Baldus, Bonfield, Bohannon, and until his recent passing, Professor Randy Bezanson, whose love and passion for this law school exceeded any words I could possibly write today. Our task as graduates of this law school is to continue Iowa's legacy of firsts, James Madison said, "Ambition must be made to counteract ambition." Well, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Giants like Judge Robert Hansen, class of 1981, who in 2007 put his pen to paper and wrote the words that stunned a nation, creating marriage equality in Iowa because nobody can change who they love, even if they tried, even if they wanted to. And in affirming Judge Hansen's ruling, the Iowa Supreme Court cited another one of its cases, a case from 140 years before, a case desegregating schools in Iowa. And so, as many others have said, probably better than me, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And maybe, just maybe, it bends that much more perceptibly because of the people in this room. So whether you're a public interest lawyer fighting to expand civil rights, a prosecutor cleaning up our streets, a corporate lawyer defending the integrity of our financial system, or maybe you're doing something totally else like me, building virtual farms where people milk virtual cows and harvest virtual fields. Remember, our task as graduates is to reinvent the world for the better. As the classically trained poet, Sean P. Diddy Combs, so eloquently stated, don't chase the paper, chase the dream. Thank you.
So thank you, Dan, for a moving speech. We're going to have to talk a little bit later about whether your opinions is what I was encouraging you to share in class. Sure, that's what I said, but I'll think on it. I am honored now to introduce the Honorable Rita B. Garman, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Illinois, to give the 2014 commencement address. Chief Justice Garman is a native of Illinois. She was valedictorian of her high school class. She received her bachelor's degree in economics with highest honors from the University of Illinois, and in 1968, her JD with distinction from this law school. She did this at a time when young women were not expected to excel in fields like economics and law. In fact, there were only 5 women in her law school graduating class. In Chief Justice Garman's address tonight, she is going to tell you a little bit about her extraordinary career, and I don't want to preempt her telling of her story. So I will only say that Chief Justice Garman has overcome challenges, has seized opportunities, and has and continues to serve as a role model to many lawyers, men and women. We are very proud to welcome her home to her legal alma mater to address our class of 2014. Please join me in welcoming her to the podium.
President Mason, Dean Agrawal, Regent Downer, importantly, members of the class of 2014, family members, friends, faculty. Thank you so much for this warm welcome and this very kind invitation to speak. It is a pleasure to return to Iowa City on such a joyous occasion. Little did I ever dream when I was sitting where you are that I would one day be a justice, much less the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Illinois, or that I would have the opportunity to make a commencement address. It's been 46 years since I attended graduation ceremonies here. It is often said that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Change over the past 4 decades has been dramatic, in part because the student body and the faculty are so much more diverse. Our school has a women dean, but in the 60s there were no women on the faculty and very few women students. But some things never change, such as the pride I can see reflected in the faces of the family members of the graduates here today, and some sheer relief that I can see in their faces and in yours. Today is a milestone and a rite of passage. As a commencement speaker, I'm expected to give you inspiring advice to take you into the next stage of your legal career. But there's another thing that never seems to change, and that is the utter forgettability of most commencement speeches. I have to confess before this august body that I can't remember who spoke at my graduation. I can only hope that maybe there's one thing I say today that might stick with you in the future. So I want to talk today about some things that are more important in the long run than passing the bar exam, landing your first job, or making partner at a law firm. I would also like to share with you some personal experiences and some observations about living a good life as a lawyer, rather than merely being a good lawyer. Everyone in this graduating class was an exceptional student in high school. I have no doubt that everyone was an outstanding student in college. When you got here, you found yourself one of more than 100 as first-year students, all of whom had a history of being academically successful. For some of you, it was a new experience not to be at the top of the pyramid. But you all worked hard, and you achieved your goal of attaining a law degree. You did this by being goal-oriented, hardworking, overachieving, things you've done all your life and by nature. Now you have reached a new stage of your life, and your instinct, based on your past experience and all that you have been taught, is to set new goals and then to get busy achieving them. Making a plan, setting priorities, having benchmarks, make all the right moves. Be in the right place at the right time. Network with others who can open doors for you. This is all good advice as far as it goes. But I urge you to leave some room for chance, for random opportunities, and for the role of serendipity. I encourage you to broaden your definition of success. And I recommend that you seek satisfaction not only in professional success, but in your personal life, in your community, and in your inner life. Serendipity refers to a fortuitous happenstance. History contains many such examples. The discovery of penicillin is one. In 1928, a biology laboratory in England, some mold spores floated onto a petri dish that was growing a bacterial culture. Alexander Fleming noticed that as the mold grew, the surrounding bacteria died. His exploration of this phenomenon gave us a miracle drug that has saved countless lives. In 1945, in a laboratory where radar technology was developed to aid the Allied forces in World War II, a manager with a candy bar in his pocket happened to stand near a magnetron, a vacuum tube that generates microwaves used to boost the sensitivity of radar. The man felt a strange sensation. Reaching into his pocket, he found that his candy bar had melted. He then held a bag of popcorn near the machine, and the popcorn popped. The patent for the first microwave oven was granted to his company within a year. Each of these men experienced a serendipitous moment, what the science fiction writer Lois McMaster Bujold has described as bizarre but wonderful feeling, of arriving dead center of a target you didn't even know you were aiming for. These two examples also demonstrate a very important part and point about serendipity. It is not simply a matter of good luck. Success that flows from serendipity is not passive. Serendipity is the art of profiting from unexpected opportunities, of taking advantage of fortuitous happenstances. And like any art, it takes effort. Serendipity rewards the person who is paying attention and who recognizes opportunity when it appears, and who is prepared to act on new and unexpected information. So what role does serendipity play in the lives of those who are not searching for medical or scientific breakthroughs? How can serendipity affect the practice of law in our lives in general? Author Lance Block has described serendipity as looking for something, but finding something else, and then realizing that what you found is more suited to your needs than what you thought you were looking for in the first place. Let me give you an example. When I graduated from this law school in 1968, I didn't have any job offers. My husband and I moved to Danville, Illinois, where he had accepted a position at a law firm, and I set about looking for work. Everyone I spoke to was pleasant, but no one offered me a job. I think the line went like, "Well, you're a nice lady, and you have a distinguished academic record, but what would we do with you?" No one wants to talk to a woman lawyer. Finally, I was approached by a member of the board of the Legal Aid Society. The one lawyer the Legal Aid office had left, and the program was in danger of closing for lack of staff. The board member thought that I might be able to keep the doors open for a while they decided on the next steps. I think his language was something like, "You're not doing anything anyway, are you? Maybe you could help us out." Well, I wasn't looking for a job as a legal aid lawyer or for a job that might turn out to be temporary. I wasn't prepared to go to court and to litigate the types of cases that came through the office door. My background before law school was in economics, and I had envisioned a career that would utilize my knowledge of finance as well as my law degree. When I accepted that offer, what I got was not only my first job. I found an entire board of attorneys and community leaders who became invested in my success. I found my first professional mentors, and I took the first step on a journey that led me to the Illinois Supreme Court. I moved on eventually to become an assistant state's attorney and then engaged in the private practice of law. When I eventually sought a position on the bench, I realized that my legal aid experience had prepared me for the job in more ways than one. Not only had it taught me about areas of the law I might not have otherwise have encountered, it gave me insight into the lives of real people who find themselves in a courtroom as plaintiffs, civil defendants, or those charged with a crime. So make your plans, set your goals, and forge ahead. But don't close your eyes to unexpected opportunity. Don't fail to notice when fate knocks at your door. One way to invite serendipity into your life is to seek out new people, new places, and new activities. Have friends who are not lawyers or other professionals. Travel to places that bring you into contact with people whose lives are vastly different from your own. Take up a hobby that makes you physically and intellectually join a world apart from the law, whether it's beekeeping, ocean kayaking, knitting, gardening. It really doesn't matter what you choose. What does matter is that you do not allow your life and your career to be defined by what happens during regular office hours. Broaden your worldview. It will improve your quality of life, and I assert make you a better person. And it will also make you a better lawyer. As you clear your mind of your latest case or the latest contract negotiation and allow yourself to concentrate on other things, like how to solve a design problem with your woodworking project or how to train for a marathon, you will find that the issues you are struggling with at work will tend to sort themselves out. You may be weeding your vegetable garden and have an insight into how to solve a client's problem. You may be reading a novel and understand how to make a persuasive closing argument to a jury. Open yourselves to the possibility of fortuitous happenstance. Which brings me to my second point, a broader definition of success. A young lawyer may measure success by getting a job at a big firm or achieving partnership status in a certain number of years. Perhaps this young lawyer believes that success can be reflected in your salary and bonus, or by the size of the house you can buy, or the model of the car that you drive. These are all proxies for success. One gets a job, a promotion, or a high salary because the work he or she does is valued by others. But a proxy is not the real thing. A proxy merely represents something of value. One of my law clerks told me a story of a law school classmate of hers. After several years at a big city law firm, this young man was firmly on the partnership track. He was billing even more than the requisite number of hours. He'd married, bought a house in the suburbs, and fathered a child. Then he showed the baby's picture to my law clerk, and he bragged he hadn't seen his 5-month-old child awake since they brought her home from the hospital. In purely financial terms, this young man was a success, and he's well on his way to even greater success. But as a human being, not quite. Work is important for us for many reasons. Not only does our work enable us to earn a living and support our families, work is an important part of self-expression and of personal fulfillment. And our work as lawyers is important to our clients. We solve problems for them that involve not only their property, but sometimes their freedom and their very lives. We assist them through divorces and deaths of family members. We counsel them through bankruptcy and business reversals, as well as success. We help them attain a remedy when they are wronged, or defend them when they are accused of some wrongdoing. But frankly, as valuable as our work is, very few of us, even Supreme Court judges, will change the world by our work. If we allow ambition in the pursuit of professional success to cause us to neglect our families and our other relationships, professional success will be a small comfort and a hollow victory. Albert Einstein counseled that one should not strive to be a success. Rather, one should strive to be of value. This expression encompasses both professional and personal success. If your work is of value to your employer and your clients, you will achieve professional success. You will achieve professional success in those ways. But if you are a person of value to your family, to your friends, and your community, you will achieve personal success. One not need to choose between the two, because the challenge to us all is in keeping the two goals in balance. Which leads me to my final point, satisfaction. There's an immediate kind of satisfaction, how we feel when we deliver an effective argument in court or obtain a favorable verdict or are able to call a client with good news. And then there's the kind of satisfaction one feels when looking back on a career and a life and thinking, if I had it to do all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. The important thing I hope you take with you today is that it is not too early to start thinking about that second kind of satisfaction. With each life choice you make, ask yourself whether this job, this move, this action will be something that you're going to be satisfied with in 20 or 10 years. As lawyers, we have many opportunities to do work that leads to satisfaction. Former president of Yale University, Kingman Brewster Jr., once said, quote, "There is no greater challenge than to have someone relying on you, no greater satisfaction than to vindicate his expectation," unquote. This encapsulates the life of the lawyer. Our clients rely on us, and there is no greater work-related satisfaction than achieving success on behalf of your client. Even when we do not accomplish all of the client's goals, it is satisfying to know that you have done all that you can and that you have fought the good fight, especially if the client appreciates your efforts. But there's others who rely on us as well: parents, spouses, children, friends, and neighbors. Neglecting these relationships to pursue professional success is short-sighted and ultimately disappointing. Over the past several years, your parents, spouses, children, and friends have supported and encouraged you. They've tolerated your demanding schedules and final week panic. They've listened to you trying to explain promissory estoppel or search and seizure, as in the Fourth Amendment. They've missed you at family gatherings and meal times because you had to study, or you had to get that moot court brief ready, or you had to cite check a journal article. Today, the folks that are here with you are experiencing the great satisfaction of seeing you graduate, knowing that you relied on them and that they gave you all the support that you needed. So right now, I invite the members of the class of 2014 to give a round of applause to those that came with you today who contributed to your success. Now it is your turn to seek satisfaction not only for your professional success, but in your personal relationships, in your community, and in your own inner life. Late actor Christopher Reeves, who heroically fought to overcome his paralysis for many years before his death, did not measure his success or his satisfaction in life by the success of his films or whether he was able to walk again. He defined success as, quote, "satisfaction in giving a little more than you take," unquote. Those are the words I'd like to leave you with today. Whether in your work, in your family relationships, with your friends, in your neighborhoods, or in your communities, take what you deserve, but give back a little more than you're expected or required to. No one has ever criticized an employee who worked extra hard, a colleague who offered to share a burden, a spouse who was extra thoughtful, a parent who spent more time with a child, a neighbor who gave unsolicited help, or a citizen who gave extra effort to his community. I congratulate each and every one of you on your success in law school, and I wish you success and, importantly, satisfaction in your future endeavors. Just don't forget, keep your eyes open for the unexpected.
Thank you, Chief Justice Garman. I hope you too will visit more often. We come now to the most important part of today's ceremony, the conferring of degrees. And I'm going to invite President Mason to join me as I present the degree candidates. President Mason, on behalf of the faculty of the College of Law, I am proud to present these candidates who have completed all the requirements for the degrees of Juris Doctor and Masters of Law as designated. Members of the class of 2014, please rise and remain standing.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Regents, State of Iowa, I hereby confer on each of you the degree of Juris Doctor or Masters of Law as qualified and designated. Congratulations. And now you may be seated.
So I think Dean Anderson and Professor Jones are going to lead you up to the podium to have your names read by Professor Stansvog. To the front.
Samuel Jacobs Aiden. Erica Cherie Amico. Alex J. Anderson. Jacqueline Michelle Appleman. Curtis James Bankers. Daniel Lee Barnes. Leslie Ellen Barron. Hans Lazans Becker. Mike Bedinger. Eric Lee Bigley. Rachel Jean Bemerly. Allison Marie Blake. Tyler Bruce Blake. Lei Bay. Nick Breitbach. Warner Brockett. David Brooks. Agnieszka Katarzyna Bugaj. Jacob Ryan Burgers. Courtney Burks. Graham Robert Carl. Adam Taylor Carlson. Ryan Cawley. Genevieve Lorraine Cawthorn. James Andrew Cedardahl. You bet. Austin Chen. Adam Douglas Chilton. Ryan Wesley Cochran. Tyler Lee Coe. James R. Caldwell. Michael Conroy. Jeffrey Joseph Cook. Genevieve Constance Craigs. Maria Conchetta Critelli. Michael Curry. Sabrina Johnson Danielson. Teresa Marie Davis. Luke Dawson. Seth Dodge. Douglas Scott Durando. James Duncan. Dara Elizabeth Eifler. Ronnie L. Rahman. David Embry. Jason Rangis Emmanuel. Ana E. Escobedo. Christopher O. Estwick. Dromi Janetta Etzi. Lewis Field. Aaron Fleck. Kylie Christine Franklin. Whitney Ann Free. Joshua John Galgano. Daniel Guerin. Brianna Lynn Gates. Sarah Taraneh Gadiri. Andrew Michael Giller. Fiona Joy Gillerin. Seth Troy Gertz. Alyssa Gonnerman. Hallie Eleanor Goodman. Andrew Joseph Gordon. Jillian Michelle Graber. Jason Michael Groth. William Marsh Gouch. Jacob Jeffrey Halverson. Joshua Hanink. Jasmine Alexis Harrington. Wade Samuel Hauser. Justin Earl Hayes. Samuel Philip Diffley Heaney. Brittany Augusta Hedstrom. Nicholas Hines. Stephanie Hernan. Christopher Reed Hinshaw. Paige Elizabeth Holton. David William Hosack. Jingyi Huang. Laura Louise Hupp. Tiffany Sumie Ikeda. Andrew Schilling Johnson. Andy Johnston. Dana Ann Judas. Sarah Ann Kahn. Bradley J. Casper. Sangyob Kim. Wesley James Kimmel. Stephen Leo Kirschner. Emily Ann Colby. Samuel Gregory Conchar. Trong B. Le. Michelle Jacqueline Lichter. Matthew Limbert. Skylar Jordan Lee Limpkman. Sarah Rachel Longhofer. Mitch Maz. Stephen Jonathan Lowell Mangold. Whitney Taylor Martin. Jacob Mall. Molly Dwyer McPartland. Benjamin Lewis Mearsman. Kara Lee Mose. Hillary Claire Moes. Jordan Moody. Jessica Morton. Mitch Nass. Kay Ellen Oskvig. David Edwin Oyang. Justin Peterson. Elizabeth Frances Polking. Stephen Robert Pistolka. Eric Dennis Preeb. Matthew Richard Quetch. Ryan Raffin. Kate Ono Rahel. Sarah Ann Remuta. Kelsey May Roboitare. Andrew Schaefer Randoni. Aaron Jason Redenbaugh. Kara Lauren Roberts. Matthias Lee Robinson. Esteban Rojo. Olivia Diane Rossi. Silverio Jono Santiago. Joshua Paul Shear. David Bruce Scott. Caroline Hamilton Sear. Scott Allen Seelix. Jesse Sheedy. Justin Alexander Shulhanik. Tat Sho Siu. David Martin Solberg. Anthony Stauffer. Brianna J. Steitzer. Peter Wilson Stiefel. John Harlan Stobie. Kelsey Strines. John Wallace Sturgis VII. Josephine Bainter Thomas. Patrick Beasley Thomas. Courtney Thomas Dusing. I got it. Ty Adina Tomasi. Stacy Catherine Townsend. John David Anthony Trippi. Maya Cheetah Lake. Jessica Ann Eulenkamp. Elliot Jason Usher. Mark Van Hukelum. John Vauble. Natalie Brooke Verdon. Zachary Waldmeyer. Allison Fawcett Weaver. Joshua Stephen Weiner. Elizabeth K. Wire. James William White. Taylor Elaine Whitten. Xingjae Zhao.
Giving the last of our graduates an opportunity to get back to their seats. Okay. So before we close, I am charged to add a few words of farewell to the newest alumni of the Iowa College of Law. You entered, I let you clap for them again, they deserve it. Well done. You entered our shared profession at a time of challenge, but I want to make sure that you never forget that you were taking your places in an honorable profession as part of a proud and distinguished legacy. 59 days after Iowa attained statehood, the University of Iowa was established. That first Iowa General Assembly declared a state motto, and it was, "Our liberties we prize, and our rights we will maintain." You might ask, how are these liberties and rights maintained? The late President John F. Kennedy might have said it best. Certain other societies, he said, may respect the rule of force, but we respect the rule of law. As lawyers, you will be guardians of the rule of law. You will be charged to uphold the Constitution, to protect and defend the liberties and the rights we prize, and to pursue justice in all you do. The orderly transition of public power and the peaceful resolution of private disputes will be entrusted to you as members of the legal profession. At the senior banquet on Wednesday, Professor Stensvag reminded us that greatness is achieved through service. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor would have me tell you that happiness is achieved through work worth doing. At its core, law is a profession of service, and as lawyers, your work will be well worth doing. As you leave the College of Law to take up this path, I am obligated to remind you that you were prepared for this noble calling, the practice of a learned art in the public interest in a public law school. Farmers in their fields, the cashiers at your local Hy-Vee, the people of Iowa contributed to the cost of your legal education. Today, I ask you to think seriously about how you will pay it forward. The need is great, your options are many, and because I know you will choose well as you fulfill this obligation to those who have helped you along the way to this great day. So on behalf of your teachers, the staff, and the rising 3Ls who long to sit where you are today, I offer our affection, our admiration, and once again, our congratulations. One more time. This 2014 commencement exercise is now adjourned. After the recessional, please join us for a reception at the Boyd Law Building, and I will see you there.